and it's the start of the playoffs where 70 are on hand to try to get to next week's event, where the top 50 will make it, and then 30 will play for the Tour Championship in 2 weeks in Atlanta. On the Range will be providing you with in-depth swing analysis with the help from the latest in tracing technology. Our experts will break down some of the best players in the world as they prepare for the FedEx St. Jude Championship. And we're glad to be in the studio with you this week with Billy Kratzert and Mark Immelman. I'm Taylor Zarzer. Mark, fresh from the road for CBS to the studio. And Kratz, it's great to have you alongside as well, where I mentioned 70 for the second consecutive year are in the playoffs, which is a transition from the past.
Yeah, and a good transition, in my opinion, Taylor, simply because now it is a playoff. You lose 55 players, second year this has happened. In fact, we had 11 first-time winners on the PGA Tour. Only 9 are here. So it's tough to get in, tough to be in that top 70. And in fact, our defending champion, Lucas Glover, he's not going to be here as well. So getting into the top 70, that is a tough task.
Yeah, Mark, and it has been a big year on the PGA Tour to get to this point.
It certainly has. Think about this. I mean, it feels like just the other day we were in Hawaii for the first 2 events of the year, and all of a sudden the playoffs are upon us. And it brings to mind something for me, given the time of the year we're in, where it's hot, it's sticky, it's humid. Players, to a man, speak of how oppressive it can be weather-wise. So I wonder about players coming in, where the energy level is, where the fatigue level is. We had a long week, final event of the regular season last week at the Wyndham, so you wonder about that. But the golf course, it is spectacular. Everyone speaks about it. It's a good challenge from tee through green, so you have to bring game. And to Billy's point, great field, awesome golf course, playoffs, baby. It's time to go.
Sounds like you're favoring the fresh guys who maybe have taken a few weeks off to get to this point. Let's tell you what's on the line this week. The top 50, if you make it into next week's event, are exempt for the 2025 players and the 8 signature events next year. So all these 70 players are trying to get into the BMW Championship next week. If you don't get in, you still get into the 2025 players. Now, for the players that didn't make it into the playoffs, that'll be finalized during the FedEx Cup Fall, which of course happens after the playoffs. Those players jockeying between positions 71 and 125. This is your 3-time FedEx Cup champion, Rory McIlroy, who comes in this week 3rd in the FedEx Cup standings. You saw the 2016 championship trophy. He's kissing it in 2019. He basically stole that from Scottie Scheffler 2 years ago. Back in the field again, and you mentioned fresh players. Haven't seen him in a couple of weeks since we saw him in Paris.
Yeah, and it's the one record, those 3 FedEx Cup titles that he holds on Tiger Woods, and he holds that, Billy, with quite a bit of pride, because there's not many things that people have done that Tiger Woods haven't.
Exactly, and we all know that if he drives the ball, like we know Rory can drive it, then the iron play becomes the most important thing. You know, do you put it in these little quadrants of the greens? The greens are they average 4,300 square feet in size, so they're not big targets. So if you get out there, you find the fairway, and then you hit a bunch of greens, you can make a bunch of putts.
Absolutely. These greens are spectacular this week. And to your point about the small greens, the iron play, at the Scottish Open, the Genesis Scottish Open earlier this season, I spent some time with him on the range, and he had just come off time off after the misstep on the final few holes there at the US Open at Pinehurst number 2. And so I said, how are you? And he goes, I'm rested. And I'm like, how are you doing? And he goes, I'm fine. He goes, I've realized I'm spending too much time over the ball, and I'm looking and I'm waggling, and I'm really not engaged, and I don't have the shot in mind. So I'm kind of just a whirlwind of thoughts. So over the last few weeks, the key has been to pick the shot behind the ball in the routine, get over the ball, 1 or 2 waggles, 1 or 2 looks, and go. So it's something to look forward to this week, because I feel like if this guy's at full flight, he can do anything. He's proved it to us.
Yeah, and I think anytime, and Mark, we discuss this a lot. Taylor, we just kind of tossing ideas around. You make these guys more reactionary to what they see and then hit the shot. That's when I think they're at their best. You look at an Oberg, You know, you look at what he's done. It's basically check the club position, take one look at the target, and then you just send the ball, let it go.
Mark, we have machines now that have been built to try to swing it like Rory McIlroy. Tell us about one of the more beautiful swings in the game.
Yeah, it is just a beautiful golf swing. It's all made at setup with Rory. You can see they're very natural, bent out of the hips. And I love the fact here, you see this natural look where the arms kind of hang down underneath the shoulders. When he gets the driver in hand, at times, he tends to get farther away and stretch away from the ball too much. Now, when you get the arms under the shoulders, he can get the left arm up the chest, and that's something he tries to do. He tries to get high and wide, and if he does that, it allows him to come down into the golf ball just a touch straighter. There's the shallowing move, the body clears out. See that strike right over the back of the golf ball, and that's Rory when he's at his best, because if he gets a little too deep, hits from the inside too much, then we start to see that left miss. But from there, you can see how the club exits to the left-hand side. That's him hitting just the softest of cuts. And when he has that cut shot, Billy, that's when it's styling.
I think you're exactly right. And, you know, the thing that I was looking for with Rory McIlroy, we talk about the hips and the speed that he has in the swing, but look at the footwork. I mean, for a guy that can swing the club 120 plus, create the ball speed 180 plus, to have the quiet footwork that he has and balance. Watch this.
It's quiet.
I mean, it is so stabilized. He is so much on balance. That's what I love the most about it.
If you look at that there, you can see the apex of those shots, almost 76 feet in the air. He can hit it miles in the air into these small greens that Bill references, hitting the ball high. That's a real weapon.
Sean Foley coming to give him a pat on the head there. Everybody wants to be around Rory these days. Here are the notable finishes last year in the FedEx St. Jude Championship. Lucas won it. He's not with us this week. He finished 78th in the standings, so he missed the field. Everybody else, though, that you see on the page there is in the field this week, including Patrick Cantlay, who finished second last year and, of course, also is a FedEx Cup champion.
He is just so well organized, so disciplined. He's the kind of guy on a golf course like this, where it just keeps coming at you. The golf course is relentless with a challenge. He's just relentless in his patience. He never does anything untoward. He always hits the correct shots. And that's why, Bill, he just hangs around when the tournament means something.
Yeah, and I think you hit on a point a little bit earlier that you talk about the players that have clarity with what they're doing, you know, off the golf course, what they're doing, what they're trying to achieve. But if they can take that clarity onto the golf course and then execute the shots with the work that they're doing with their swing coach, Jamie Mulligan right there, that's when you've got it.
Mm-hmm. Jamie Mulligan, just for the record, also works with one Nelly Corder, amongst many talented golfers in the PGA and LPGA tours.
Cantlay's an 8-time winner, won the FedEx Cup. He has 4 top 10 finishes this year without a win, but loves where his game is coming into the playoffs.
There's a little bit of a reset, knowing that you know, the points are more, and now we're playing really for FedEx Cup for the end of the year. But with just how it works with the tournaments, I still treat it like it's just another tournament. You know, I've played well in the playoff events in the last few years, so hoping to keep that trend up. You know, you want to be peaking at certain times of the year, and this is definitely one of the times of the year where you want to be peaking. So my game's been better. The trend's been up the last couple months, so you know, I feel good about where I'm at and playing some tournaments and courses that I feel comfortable at.
Evidence of that is the 3rd place finish at Pinehurst and then 5th in Hartford.
It's amazing. You know, ordinarily this is a name, Patrick Cantlay. When you look at a PGA Tour field, you expect to see that name in the reckoning on Sunday afternoon, because that's the kind of game he has. He's so well-rounded. But there's been limited appearances from him. But Bill, he's just been lurking. It's not like he's playing poorly. It's just like nothing has really clicked completely just yet. And he referenced the fact that it's not how you play well, it's also when you play well. And he has a penchant for this time of the year.
Yeah, and then when you talk to Jamie Mulligan, he will tell you it's all about the management of the peaks and the valleys, and where does that fit into the competitive part of playing professional golf? And that's what you manage out here, and I think he does a great job.
Our tracer technology is provided by TrackMan.
It's such a simple action. You can see the numbers there, 207 yards. That's likely something in the order of 5 iron for Patrick Cantlay. But you watch that golf swing, Bill, it's like clockwork. It's up the plane, down the plane, quiet feet. I know you love that. And he's always in balance. He's always in balance.
Yeah, and when you talk to Jimmy Mulligan and you talk about the golf swing, you know, watch the top of the swing. He likes to use the phrase, I want him to put the club to sleep at the top. You know, to where there's not that flash motion.
Yep.
And when you see the transition of a player, when you see it like Cantlay has right now, you're pretty much in for a good ball striking day.
It's very habitual, these pro golfers, especially Cantlay too, Taylor. Every time he practices, he's got the alignment rod, he double checks fundamentals. You'll see him check his hands, and then you can see the towel on that stick. He'll always wipe off the club face after strikes too, just to get appropriate numbers on each ball.
Discipline today makes it easier for tomorrow.
Reverend Kratzer, the Reverend Kratzer.
Practice how you play, right?
Yeah, amen.
Cantlay's playing with Ben On at 12:25 tomorrow. Here's some notable round one pairings. Wyndham Clark and Ludwig Oberg at 10:35. Mark and I are going to get to watch Rory and Colin Morikawa on PGA Tour Live at 10:45. Sahith Theegala and Hideki Matsuyama at 1:35. Number 1 and number 2 at 1:45 tomorrow afternoon. Robert Damron is on the ground for us this week, and he is standing by with Sam Burns.
All right, guys, I'm here with Sam Burns. Sam, 29th on the points list right now. How cognizant are you of that once the playoff starts?
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about, being in this spot is I can kind of control my own destiny. I go out and play well and can move up quick, and I think that's the beauty of the playoffs. And I love this golf course. I'm excited to be here this week and looking forward to it.
You've been playing nicely, but not quite contending for trophies. What's the next step to get you playing that much better to where you're on top of the leaderboard Sunday?
Yeah, I think getting out of my own way a little bit. Made a ton of birdies in Minnesota and threw in a quad and a triple in there. So without that, I'm right there. I think I finished 12th. But yeah, my game's coming around. I feel like I've been playing really well, seeing some really good stuff at home, and this is the time of year to do it. So I'm hoping that it all kind of clicks the next few weeks.
And what's the perspective like being a new dad? I know it's not brand new, but it's still pretty fresh.
Yeah, it's the best. I think you have a whole new perspective on golf and life, and your bad days out here, as soon as you go home and he's sitting there smiling at you, you really don't care about what happened out here. So it's been really fun, and we're staying in the house with the Schefflers this week. So seeing Bennett and Bear together has been it's been really fun. Our houses definitely look a little bit different. I was telling Scotty last night, I got up to grab something, and there was stuff, play mats and toys, and it's like, yeah, that's a little different now than what it used to be.
Well, good. I hope you're making him pay and wear them out this week. Good luck. Thanks. Back to you guys.
Yeah, Caroline gave Sam the baby yesterday during a practice round, as you see Jordan Spieth signing some autographs, and Sam was in a practice round with Xander Schauffele. Sam handed Bear to Xander as it was his turn to hit yesterday, and then Xander gave him back as it was Xander's turn to hit. And
Xander was like, not just yet, but just have him right back.
We're going to watch the X-Man warm up here in just a moment. On the Range continues on Golf Channel. It's time now for Smooth Swing, presented by Maestro Dobel Tequila. Smoothness remastered. The smooth swing of Xander Schauffele on the range.
And I tell you what, the swing is smooth. It's elegant in its simplicity, but he can crank it off the tee. This man moves it through the air fast. You've got a lot of weapons, Bill.
He really does. And having the pleasure of following him at the PGA Championship in soft conditions there, I mean, it was just all carry all week long. And some of the monster drives that he was hitting were just incredible. But it doesn't, he never looks as though it's 100%. It always looks like, okay, 80%, you can crank it up a little bit. But he still never looks like he's out of balance or anything.
2 wins, 2 seconds, a third, 12 top 10s this year. 90% of the seasons on the PGA Tour. That would be good enough to be the player of the year, which of course include 2 majors, but there's one other guy.
Well, if he had to win a couple times in the playoffs and win the FedEx Cup, he could make a strong case for it. But I will say this, of all the players on the PGA Tour right now, and I'm saying this with the ultimate deference to Scottie Scheffler, I think the guy who has the most, or the most skill, if you will, and the most shots is this guy in your screen over here. And I'm going to gravitate to just the short game. Of all the putters under pressure, I think that's his best attribute. And we'll look into the golf swing, which he's worked very hard on with Chris Como, but he'll spend a good 30, 40 minutes on the putting green before a tournament round. And I asked him about it, and he was like, you know, sometimes I get so into it, checking putting fundamentals, distance control and stuff, that Austin, my caddy, has to say to me, yo, bro, we got to go. You've got balls to it because we've got a tee time in 15, 20 minutes. So, Bill, I know you like this action over here. The thing to me that stands out after the work with Como is how he's got the club well lined up at the top. But the sequencing is what is the magic to me. So as we swing him back to the top there, you can see he's bent over beautifully from the waist. Very quiet feet, just an easy rotation of the body. And the change now for Xander Schauffele, as he used to have the club well laid off or pointing to the left-hand side with a whole lot more bowing there in that lead wrist. Now with this club more on line at the top, it's able to come down a little straighter and more in front of him. So what was a shot in a right to left that he used to fight, now he hits that with a lot of control because back to the golf ball, look how that right elbow there is beautifully tucked into the side. You see how the body is opening up to the target, yet the chest is closed. Now as the chest is closed, the body's opening up. That's that ground to the top sequencing we see, where the golf swing works from feet to hips to chest to arms to club head. And every single swing he makes, he sort of built that with his dad to say, okay, it's like a javelin thrower. It comes out the ground, you release the energy, and he is so well timed all the time.
Yeah, and you talk about the position of the golf club at the top of the swing between the arms, and then you were talking about the right elbow at impact. If you look at the right forearm and the shaft of the club, pretty much in line from waist high to impact to past impact.
That's a recipe for success, ain't it?
It certainly is. Yeah. I mean, if you want consistency, just kind of think about, okay, at impact, is my right forearm shaft in line, I deliver the club, and then it continues.
Well, then the cool thing, Taylor, is what Billy's showing, that line from the elbow through the hands to the club head. It's like a straight line. It almost becomes like a high-octane putt stroke. And think if you got that alignment with the forearms and the putter, you become good. Something he does, he's able to do that at 100-something mile an hour with a golf club too.
His comfort level and confidence level in being able to repeat that all year is at an all-time high. You mentioned the putting. The putt of the year has to be the winning putt at the PGA Championship in terms of most important putts. And when he won the Claret Jug afterwards at Royal Troon, he told me that was the best round of his life, considering the stakes. So 2024 has been the year of Xander Schauffele's career.
You guys have all spent a lot of time around him, as have I. And the one immeasurable, and that's the ability to make that putt, in my opinion, is the quiet mind. You know, he'll be under the highest of pressure, and that demeanor never, ever changes. He's like a duck on water, Bill.
Well, you look at the expression that he had after the tee shot on 18 at Troon, when he looked over at Austin. He's kind of laughing, but yet Austin is all business.
All three of the gold medalists that have ever won a gold are here: Justin Rose, Xander Schauffele, and Scottie Scheffler. And this year's medalists that made the podium are all in Memphis, Tennessee, to play in the FedEx St. Jude Championship, although it took Hideki Matsuyama a lot in order to get to Memphis. We'll tell you more about that coming up as our coverage on the range on Golf Channel continues. Time now for Going for the Green, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Let's say hello to GolfBet senior writer Ben Everill, who's on site there in Memphis. Let's not waste any time, Benny. Let's get straight to the outright winner this week of the FedEx St. Jude Championship. Who you got?
Taylor, I'm expecting a huge statement from one Rory McIlroy this week. Everyone's been talking about Scheffler. Everyone's been talking about Schauffele, but no one's really been talking about Rory. I expect him to make a huge statement here at TPC Southwind, where he was third last year. Look, don't forget that of the 9 previous winners on this course, they've all been in the top 6 strokes gained tee to green. Rory's second on tour tee to green. He's got a lot more to play for at this moment than the other 2 big names. I really think those couple of T5s he's had in the last 3 outings is going to be good, and I think Rory's going to get it done this week.
3-time FedEx Cup champion, but those are some short odds. I know you're looking for some value. Who has the best value in your mind this week?
Well, I could go to an Aussie like Adam Scott, but I'm going to go with sneaky Patrick Cantlay for a top 5 this week. I think he's been slept on and forgotten about this season, and there's a bit of a Victor Hovland-esque for me here. He's had a couple of top 5s and then a T25 at the Open, and he's the playoff Paddy Ice, right? He brings it when it comes to the playoffs. I really think Cantlay can sneak up on a lot of guys, and what he did here last year probably should have won. I think he knows that. He's under the radar a little bit, and I think you can get some good value on the top 5 market there for Patrick Cantlay.
Okay, very good. And of course, he also is a FedEx Cup champion. Now, Ben might need to be a little quiet here as he talks about head-to-head matchups, because somebody he's fading might be hitting balls right behind him. Who you got, Benny?
Yeah, look, I've got to go for the hot hand. Aaron Rai last week against Victor Hovland, our reigning FedEx Cup champion. I'm sorry, Victor, but it just hasn't been there for you this season. He's obviously outside the top 50 looking in, too. He has to try to get inside that top 50 for next week. He has to play well here, but I just don't see it happening. I just don't see Victor being able to overcome. Like I talked about strokes gained tee to green. Aaron Rai's 7th on tour. Victor this season, 66th. That's not going to get it done. Give me the hot hand. Give me Aaron Rai over Victor this week.
Okay, I don't think he's still over your shoulder, so I think you're okay. But of course, he is going through a swing change. Ben, stay dry there on Wednesday and stay cool, my friend. Thank you so much.
No problems. Good luck, everyone.
DraftKings Sportsbook is an official sports betting partner of the PGA Tour. And this week, new customers can bet $5 and pocket $150 in bonus bets instantly. Download the app and use promo code RANGE when you sign up. DraftKings Sportsbook, the crown is yours.
On the Range is presented by Maestro Dobel, the official tequila of the PGA Tour.
You think of everything that the #1 player in the world has accomplished in the last few years, in particular this year. There's really only one thing missing now, Mark. It's a FedEx Cup Championship. He's done everything else.
I know, it's been fascinating to watch over the last few seasons, and it looks like there's no stopping him. You know, for a little while there, maybe he wasn't at his sharpest, but all of a sudden there in Paris, he decides to do Scotty Scheffler stuff for the last 63 holes and sucks in the leaders and ends up winning the gold. But the thing about him that's always so intriguing, Bill, is you watch him go about his craft, and with all of the accolades and all the success and all the low scores and all the tournament wins, he just sticks to what he knows works. And if you watch him pre-shot, in practice, before tournaments, during tournaments, watch how disciplined he is about checking the grip every single time. He makes sure his hands are properly on the club. He's got a formed grip with a 5-iron inside his bag that he checks all the time. Now, folks, this is the #1 golfer in the world who fell out of bed striking the ball well, yet he will check his hands on the club every single time.
Hugely important. You know, it's a game of feel. It's a game of obviously technique as well. But if you don't have that comfort at the beginning, before you even initiate the golf swing, where do you think it's going to go? And I think he and Randy Smith, what they've done to get that clarity, to understand, to simplify, because playing professional golf at the high level, you don't want to be clouded out there. You don't want swing thoughts. You just want to see the shot and hit it. And that's what we always talk about. And the simplicity of everything that Scotty Scheffler does, the only time he's really got hung up was with the putter, and that was corrected.
Yeah, and then you look at that too. You speak of the feel in the hands. Folks who are watching this, who are trying to improve, and we all are, Remember, the golf ball goes where your club face tells it to go, right? And the club face only does what your hands do. And if you watch Scotty, he always checks the hands in the club up in the sky, not down below him. So here he is at address. This is a tall man. He's about 6'3" or so. So to me, the biggest challenge for Scheffler is to get down to the golf ball. And you see that reverse letter Z he's drawn there, bending from the hips, bending from the knees with the arms nice and relaxed down in front. That is textbook. That sets up the whole sequence for him. Now, if you watch him start away, that club gets out and up a little bit more. And everyone makes a big criticism about the legs and the footwork and stuff. But up there at the top, he's very reminiscent to me of a young Jack Nicklaus. The arm swings way high. You can see there's a little separation, right trail elbow inside. The club slightly across the line. Billy, that looks like the Golden Bear. Now from there, he's set up. Yeah. And you'll watch the big leg drive, now watch the footwork. You see, with an iron club, he's fairly stable. Eyes behind the golf ball, there's your right forearm shaft relationship. Now everything's done. Now it's just following that club through to the finish, and now you can see the feet give way, but the feet only give way after the golf ball's left. So all that stuff everyone's all hysterical about, that's a non-issue in my opinion. He finishes in balance. Everything's made from start to contact.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because listening to Randy and Scotty, and then you look to Randy talking about the shafts of the club. You know, you see so many guys that are thinking, okay, I need to lay the shaft down, lay the shaft down. He almost kind of tips it outwardly to make sure that it stays on plane, and therefore the strike, once he tips it, and I mean, it is just a quarter of an inch. I mean, he is money from there.
Okay, I'm going to throw some names at you who did the same thing. I'll start with Bruce Litsky, then I'll go to David Duval. Oh, I forgot Sam Snead. There's Vijay Singh. All of these guys, flushers, right? Mm-hmm. This guy does the same stuff. You go and poll the locker room on a PGA Tour event. Who's the best ball striker? You'll hear this guy's name most of the time.
Absolutely. I remember walking with a couple of players at Oak Hill, and they just said it's not even close. I mean, he's the #1 ball striker on tour.
Historically good stuff from him in 2024. Not that 2022 or 2023 were any slouches. And of course, he won the Comcast Business Tour Top 10 for the regular season and takes the lead going into the playoffs. Someone asked him at the Open Championship if he'd experienced any real heartbreak, sort of like Rory McIlroy had in the U.S. Open. And he had to think for a second. He said, I guess 2 years ago in Atlanta when Rory came back and beat him in the Tour Championship. So if there's one thing that he can exact some revenge for, it's what Rory did to him 2 years ago. Rory will play with Colin Morikawa the first couple of days. People have sort of forgotten that Collins had a terrific year while Xander and Scotty have had this historic season.
Well, yet to win this year. And I think that's you know, the big void in his year for him. And he's played some really good golf. It's almost like all of a sudden at Augusta National this year, everything just kind of clicked, and from that point forward, he started really playing well. The ball striking, you could hear his voice, the confidence in his voice, where he was carrying it, where he was going. I'm actually surprised that he hasn't won this year with the way that he was talking, feeling, and the results he was getting.
One thing real fast on Colin. This year, whenever I've been out there, and it's been often, there's been plenty of times, because he's worked hard on his technique, on his golf swing, that after a round, if he played in the morning, he was out there grinding. Just he and his caddy JJ, swing videos and stuff. So he has worked his way back to where he is.
Used to be he was a front runner. He would just win, and then he would disappear for a while with 6 wins in his PGA Tour career. As Billy said, 7 top 10s this year without winning. So a consistent season, but yet without a victory, as his good buddy Victor Hovland and him both look at their phone right now.
Yeah, and you know, it's not a knock on any of the swing coaches, but Colin Morikawa going back to a familiar voice, a voice of confidence. Colin Morikawa's sussing house, and then we saw it right there. Victor Hovland and Joe Mayo.
Yep.
Yeah, 2 of them.
And Victor's on the bubble. Victor has to play well this week in order to get into the BMW. Next week, the defending champion could miss next week's event and the championship event unless he plays well this week.
He's coming back to happy hunting ground in TPC Southwind. Last year, I should say, forgive me, finished runner-up after a pretty average first round. And this guy too, I mean, it's been all sorts of swing construction the whole time. The whole issue, and I will say this because last year in the playoffs, he went on a torrid tear. There at the BMW at Olympia Fields outside of Chicago, shot a back nine of 29, won there.
That was crazy good.
Yeah, it was. Every time I turned around, the guy was bending over, pulling the ball out the hole because he'd made a putt. And then Eastlake goes there and wins at a canter, and he was striking the ball beautifully. But we caught up, and then he played the Ryder Cup, and it was great. And then afterwards, he sort of said, look, I was hitting the ball well, but everything was turning to the left. And that didn't settle with him because he likes to see the ball going in the opposite direction. And if you watch there, you'll see just the gentlest of drip fades. So he started working on this, trying to get the fade back. And so the draw went away, the fade came back, but all of a sudden then he started to hit one or two fades, then one or two hooks. And Billy, when you start to, as a pro golfer, see a two-sided miss, then you got issues, and that began this whole swing construction odyssey he's currently on.
Yeah, and I was with him at the Players when Rory McIlroy, Jordan Spieth, and he were all paired together in the first two rounds. And the miss that you're talking about, the miss to the right, when he would miss it to the right, it was what we kind of term as a wipe miss. It just kind of went out there and didn't have any speed on it. And you can really see the frustration with him because he had not reconnected with Joe Mayo at that point. And then it kind of said, okay, you know what, hands up, I've had enough. And now it's become a lot better.
Did reconnect with Joe, as you see in the visor there just to the right of Victor right before the PGA Championship, and it led to his only top 10 finish of the season where he finished third at Valhalla.
But I will say this, I had him in the Saturday round. He played alongside Bryson at the PGA, and everything was hit well, but it wasn't fading. You know, it was struck well, and I said to Shea Knight, his caddy, I'm like, it looks good, and he said, yeah, there's still work to do. And he still kept on working because he wants to see that ball move to the right-hand side, no matter how well it's struck.
Again, needs a good finish this week in order to get to Castle Pines. Be fun to be there again next week for the BMW Championship. Top 50 make it there, and Jordan Spieth also is outside the top 50 going into this week. Another past champion of the FedEx Cup. Won it 9 years ago, Mark, and is 64th in the standings coming in.
It's crazy. I mean, we've watched him grow up before our eyes, haven't we? And it's crazy how, you know, you think a leopard would never change its spots. But Jordan Spieth, when he came out on tour, was a magician. He's always been a magician with a wedge. He was a great putter. Then in 2015, he struck the irons incredibly well, hold putts, won just about everything he played in. Since then, it's kind of all gone on its head, and Billy, he drives the ball better now than his iron game, which I find fascinating.
I start looking at the golf swing and the times that I've been out there with him. You're absolutely right. The driver has not been the issue.
And long, too.
And when you start looking 2015, 2017, when he was top 5, in fact, in 2017, he was number 2 on tour in strokes gained so far as the approach to the green. You know, what happened? Because, okay, did you put so much effort into getting the driver corrected that, okay, there was a change there. But I love the way that he drives the ball. And if the iron play can just sharpen a little bit, he's going to be very much okay. And I wonder if the wrist has that much to do with it.
Well, that is where I was going to go, Kratz. His left wrist is the one that's bothered, and he has been bandaging it at times, but of course the glove is in the way of that wrist. Tell us if you notice anything with his swing, Kratz.
Well, he's always been balanced, and he goes through that little rehearsal to where he tries to put the club in position, but everything's so well balanced there. You look at the wedge, it's not going to be a big swing, but we'll see if the sequence is in sync. You can see right there, there's a really quick, as we get to the top, you can see right there, there's a quick turn of the right hip. But you look at Jordan right there, you can see, and hopefully I can draw this, but you can see the roundness of the back and kind of the shoulders there. It certainly appears to me that he could be a little taller through the shot. But he's always going to have the left arm that looks like it's kind of up in the air. It is more up in the air than other players, but I just think a lot of concern is going to be that left wrist. I really do. I think there's hesitancy to go down and get it.
That's it. Wellini actually said that going into last week's event at the Wyndham Championship, Mark. He's 13th on the PGA Tour in strokes gained off the tee, which doesn't require him to make contact with the ground. He's 117th approaching the green, and he said it's in his mind when his wrist make contact with the ground.
Well, I want to add to that too, because that was a wonderful job analyzing what he did. But Jordan, when he was younger, there was a whole lot more flexion in that left wrist. It was a whole lot more bowed, the face was more shut. And then from there, he'd rotate, almost roll on the foot and hold the face off through contact. Now you look at him now, that left wrist position, as you pointed out at the top, a whole lot more neutral, face a whole lot more open. So as a result, now you can see how he's going to have to back out of that and try and shut the face down through contact.
Yeah.
And he said to me, he goes, if I had it to do over again, I would not listen to all of the haters. Because back in the day when I did what I did, everyone criticized me, yet people are now trying to copy that bowed wrist he had.
Right, and when you look at Jordan and he sets up with a very weak left hand. And so he's automatically going to put it in that position if he just rotates at all. And, you know, hopefully the wrist is going to be okay, because he figured the driver out, and that was a big deal.
Meanwhile, our friend Robert Dameron's with the man that is 6th in the point standings this season, Ludwig Åberg.
Yeah, I always get put with the tall guys, of course. Ludwig, your first time here, your first time in the playoffs. How are you finding TPC Southwind so far?
Yeah, I mean, we just talked about, I think it's a very nice golf course. It demands a lot off the tee, but it's very fair. If you play well, you're going to get rewarded. If you don't play well, you're going to get punished. So I think that's a testament to a good golf course, and really looking forward to it.
Anything specific you're working on today on a Wednesday? You know, four big rounds this week, 3 tournaments coming up that could equal $15 million.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're always going to work on the same things, for me at least. We got to play 9 this morning, first time seeing the golf course, so the intention on the golf course was just more to figure out where to play and then where not to play. And then today, yeah, just trying to fixing some things and working on some things, and you know, I'm going to be working on a lot of things over the next couple of weeks.
And 6th in the playoffs so far right now, 6th in the FedEx Cup standings. How cognizant are you of that? Like how important early on is it to, well, you got to catch Scheffler, you got to try to win this week? Are you kind of finding it hard not to get ahead of yourself?
Well, for me, I can only control what I can control and what I can do, so whatever the other guys are doing is not really up to me. So all I try to do is obviously prepare as well as I can and make sure that I'm ready come Thursday, and then, you know, hopefully we can play good enough golf to somewhat catch Scotty, I guess.
All right, well, good luck to that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That is an uncluttered mind, that's for sure. Tees off at 9:35 tomorrow with Wyndham Clark, and we are going to watch one of the best swings in the world, one of the quickest moves you'll see in the game. Ludwig Åberg is on the range when we continue. Okay, here's your plan tomorrow. You got Kratz at 8:15 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Plus on the main feed. Immelman and I get a little more sleep. We're on at 10:30 on ESPN Plus. Then at 2 p.m. Eastern on Golf Channel, they have full-blown coverage of the first round of the FedEx St. Jude Championship.
That's a mega.
Nice dig.
you like that?
We'll be watching you with coffee. We've got some megawatt groups. I mean, Scheffler and Xander and Rory and Morikawa, and of course this guy's close on hand.
Don't blink, because he's already hit one ball and he's about to hit another. It doesn't take much time between shots. Joe Scovrin hands him the club, Kratz, and it's pull time.
Right, and can you think of another player on tour that stands as close to the golf ball?
Furyk, but he's not on tour anymore. He's on the Champions Tour.
But everything lines up perfectly. You look at shoulders, hips, knees, right over the balls of the feet. But I love the routine. I mean, following him, watching him play, it is so good, so much fun to watch. It is a check on the first little practice swing. Club comes back, you look at the target, ball's in the air.
I will say this, of all the elite golfers in the game, you mentioned it earlier, it's an uncluttered mind. And they just showed what Bill was talking about. When he stopped playing soccer over in Sweden and went to the high school there where it's kind of the setup for the Swedish Golf Academy, he and the coach there, Hans Larsson, for 1 whole year, these kids study ball flight dynamics, face alignment, swing path, angle of attack, speed, and they learn about every scenario between those things that you can create golf shots. So for this guy, he's like, well, to hit this, the face has got to be looking here and I must swing there. That's as simple as it is. And that's why he looks so simple, and that's why, to me, Bill, he doesn't stand over the ball and look like he's trying to organize 15 different swing thoughts to get the ball to the target down.
Yeah, everything is measured up. And when he goes through that one little rehearsal, and 2 swings ago, you could see him kind of close the face down a little bit earlier. You know, I just love that move because it never allows the shaft of the club to get underneath the arms. And if you can just watch the face of the club get more on the target line earlier behind the right hip, the trail hip.
It's time now for Smooth Swing, presented by Maestro Dobel Tequila. Smoothness remastered. Let's take a closer look here, Mark.
Well, we looked at this one for PGA Tour Swing Theory yesterday, and it is just gorgeous in its simplicity. And Bill talks about the joints lined up over each other. Check this out. If I drop a line down right from the tricep straight to the ground, like a plumb line, you see how it clips the kneecaps, see how it clips the balls of the feet? That's kind of the balance line. And I'm going to leave that right there because watch how he operates around this. You'll see the arms off the ball. He keeps the face looking at the golf ball for a long time. That's what Billy was talking about. Now the club's over the hands, now the club's over the shoulder. And can you see there, imagine we're coming off the Olympics, that he's standing on a balance beam right now. You see he'll never fall off that thing there, and the club's right over his shoulder. Now, with all that speed, watch him, he'll begin to unwind. His knees will settle in right over that line. You see there? Perfectly balanced. Now he unwinds, see he's still balanced on his beam. The face is over the golf ball. Now when he swings through, he'll still look balanced on that beam. Watch this. It's uncanny. You could put this guy on a balanced beam and he swings at 120 mile an hour plus and he wouldn't fall off either side. And that's because of the distance from the ball. It's because of the stability of the face. And I feel like just the fact that this guy honestly looks like he came out of Valhalla with a golf club in his hand. Yeah. Whereas Thor got the hammer, this guy got a driver.
You talk about free of thought. I mean, it's just kind of look, aim, fire.
Kratz, you asked earlier to Mark if there's anybody else in the game that stands that close to the ball today, and we can't think of anyone in the modern game. What about all time? Can you think of somebody that stood that close to the golf ball?
Furyk. Jim Furyk.
Yeah, Furyk, he probably stood as close to the golf ball.
Byron Nelson.
Byron Nelson. I think Mr. Nelson, he made the comment, you can't stand too close to the golf ball.
Or you can't have the ball too far forward in the stance. And if you watch this guy, he's always checking ball position. He and Scotty Scheffler too.
You know, I think, you know, when you go through the fundamentals and you start looking at players and what they do, there's always the commonalities in the golf swing. Ball position, you know, what Mark was talking about. We were talking about the shoulders, the hips, the knees, balls of the feet, everything in line. That all seemingly goes together.
You know, most of the guys that are in the top 10 in the FedEx Cup standings are winners on the PGA Tour. He isn't. In order to be in the top 10 without winning, you need to be around the lead a lot. He has 7 top 10s this season on the PGA Tour, which is why he is 6th in the standings coming in this week.
Well, just one thing too, and this is to build on the Jordan Spieth and the wrist injury he's getting treatment for and a procedure later on in the season. Ludwig has been battling the knee injuries, right? So he's not at full pace. And still, this guy finds a way to contend for events.
It's really bothering him in Louisville at Valhalla, and he wondered if it would compromise his season. It hasn't. He's been able to manage the pain and play well through it.
Yeah, missed the cut at the PGA, and didn't know at that point because he had taken some time off, but I think he looks pretty good right now, just on the range.
That golf swing was making the hair on the back of my neck stand up a little bit.
Justin Thomas, how about him? He's number 19 in the standings, and he's back in the playoffs after missing the playoffs last season. He was 1 shot out. JT will be on the range in just a moment, and we'll be watching here on Golf Channel, getting you ready for the FedEx St. Jude Championship. It's time now for Fantasy 4, presented by DraftKings. Let's go through the rules here and see what we can do this week. You get 6 golfers, which are locked by the first tee time. You have a salary cap of $50,000, which you have to be careful with, and that's the scoring system with player per hole finish streaks and bonuses. And here, now this has to add up to 50,000. So if you pick Scotty Scheffler, then you got to be careful of who the other guys are going to be as you see how much each player costs. Let's see if Billy Kratzert and Mark Immelman did the math here as they are going to make some picks. We're starting with you, Kratz. Who you got?
Well, I'm going to go with Xander Schauffele, simply because I can't remember when the last cut he has missed. He's won 2 major championships this year. The reason that you always like Xander Schauffele, with the ball striking's not going to be at the top level, the short game is. He has an elite short game. And the putter, you give him good greens, he's pretty much not going to miss an 8-footer. So I love Xander Schauffele. He's had a magnificent year. I just think it continues on. The only thing missing from his resume now is that FedEx Cup Championship.
Yeah, the gold medal a couple of years ago, and now a couple of majors, and you exasperated a little. Did you want him to be more creative?
Big limb there. Spending big money early, too. Me, I'm going with Russell Henley. I know you like that pick. He's a Georgia Bulldog. To me, the course fits his skill set. He is super accurate. In fact, the last time he missed a fairway, I lost a finger, and I still have 10 of them. He is unbelievable off the tee. He's healthy. He's strong right now. The mind is clear. And to me, very importantly, given the run of golf we've been on, he is rested coming in here. He's had some time off. So Russell Henley around the TPC Southwind, book it.
Columbus, Georgia native. Where does Mark Immelman live?
Columbus, Georgia.
Yeah, there you go. Get to see a lot of him. Kratz, who's your second pick?
I'm going to go with the Arnold Palmer Rookie of the Year. I'm going to go with Eric Cole. He's kind of a streaky player. He loves to play a lot. There was a stretch starting at the PGA Championship where the next 5 tournaments he missed 4 cuts. But since the U.S. Open, he's made every cut, all 6 events. And why I like him is the fact that he has 3 top 10s in those top 6 making the cut. So I think this is, you're kind of looking at that player that gets hot at the right time of year. He's just outside the top 50. So a good week this week, he's in.
Hot at the right time of the year. I'm all over that. So call this recency bias, whatever it is. Max Grazerman, 2 runner-ups in a row. Came horribly short at the Wyndham last week, but he was playing beautifully. He is long off the tee. The confidence is super high, and to me, he just keeps the thing, you know. After the coming up short at the 3M, took a week off, came back playing great. I feel like he'll bounce back just fine and have another big week.
All right, Gracerman is a Duke Blue Devil, not a Tar Heel. But he does have a couple of second-place finishes, like you said. He's had a fantastic year this year on the PGA Tour. DraftKings is an official daily fantasy sports partner of the PGA Tour, and this week, new customers can play free for your share of millions in prizes with your first deposit. Download the DFS app and use promo code RANGE when you sign up. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
On the Range is presented by Maestro Dobel, the official tequila of the PGA Tour.
Hey, Kratz, you know what Tuesday was this week? Left-Handers Day.
National Left-Handers Day, you got it.
So let's watch a bunch of lefties that are in the field, including one of the best stories in golf in 2023. How about the 2 feel-good wins on the PGA Tour for Bobby Mack when his dad, Doogie, was on the bag when he won the RBC Canadian Open and then won his own National Open, the Genesis Scottish Open.
You know what? I was on hand, fortunately, for both. And Canada, the fans showed out as they normally do. It was a wonderful event. And I almost feel like holding off Rory McIlroy and company over there set him up for the victory in Scotland in front of his home fans, because what he did there in Canada was very sharp. Played with a lead, showed the moxie, showed the gumption, hit the shots required, made the putts required. And you can almost see him going from strength to strength, because there's something to be said. He's a winner on the DP World Tour. You win on the PGA Tour, and with love to my European counterparts, it's just different over here. And he went back to Europe, he had the swagger about him, went to Scotland, and he just looked like a different guy. And Bill, Bob McIntyre, he's done something, but he has picked up some speed off the tee, because he can lace it right now.
You really can. And you start looking at the positions, and you can see, looking down there, at the numbers. You can look at this swing, and you can see all the positions that he puts it in. It puts it in pretty good spots.
Our tracer technology is provided by TrackMan. Tell us about it, Krafts.
Well, we talk about the lines. We talk about, you know, just the way everything is stacked at address. Looks very comfortable. Everything falls in line for McIntyre. And I just thought that at Canada, winning that golf tournament, the confidence that was built, that was made, I just think that from this point forward, he feels as though he's that world-class player that kind of everyone had kind of tagged him for earlier.
I would almost take it a little step back to Rome last year in the Ryder Cup, where he came in. And there was some criticism behind his selection, and he was a strong man alongside Justin Rose, and playing in front of those crowds was big too. But to that swing there, when he came out on tour, he used to hit a lot of pattern on the golf ball. It was a lot of left to right, pardon me, right to left movement for the left-hander. It's a whole lot tighter to the ball flight right now. So as a result, he's getting more distance out of it.
Let's keep the left-handed theme going. Robert Dameron standing by with Brian Harmon.
All right, Brian, you've got a contraption here on the ground. You had a kind of an inflatable ball around your neck just a minute ago. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, so for me, I feel like my game kind of all revolves around my approach game. Usually drive it pretty good, usually putt it pretty good. So getting the ball in manageable spots on the green. So I've worked really hard the last couple of years of having a more consistent flight with my irons. And for me, when I'm out here and I can hit a full 6-iron that doesn't turn over, just kind of hang straight or maybe even fades a yard, that's when I know that I'm in good enough form to do whatever. So that's what I'm working on. I'm always got different things to try to help me visualize what that shot looks like, and then trying to put power into that shot.
Okay, good. So not as complicated as it looks.
Very, very simple. For me, it's all about the one shot. And I know that when I can hit that one shot, that my swing's in a good enough spot to contend.
All right, you got it. Well, keep going at it. Let's keep watching them.
I'm here in just a moment, but first let's go to the other lefty, Akshay Bhatia. What a season he's had in 2024.
Yeah, good season. Got his second win in San Antonio.
I'd be a bit concerned. You're a left-hander with a driver in the hand there. Jordan Spieth's just a few feet behind you. We could have a collision if we're not careful.
They kind of both work on the same thing. I mean, just by looking at the takeaway and kind of the rehearsal for Akshay.
This young man, you talk about levers, he weighs less than 130 pounds. He's tall, but he maximizes levers. I mean, the rotation, the side bend, all the sort of stuff that people are working on, he maxes it all out.
You can see the little rehearsal, but then the vertical move with the golf club. He's trying to take some of that verticality out of it. I don't know what the reason would be, but he certainly has a little pre-swing to where he's trying to round it off just a little bit right at the beginning. But I love the right arm slot at the top of the swing.
15th in the standings. You referenced the win in Texas. Heartbreaking loss in Detroit. Came so close there, finished second. And watch out. He might make this team. He's on the next page. You see the top 10 here in the President's Cup standings. That's through this past Sunday's tournament in Greensboro. Batia is number 11, and Captain Jim Furyk gets 6 selections. Don't be surprised if Akshay Batia is in Montreal.
And there's a few new faces there. If you think back to the Ryder Cup, there's Russell Henley, who's almost locked for a spot over there. Akshay's been playing super solid. And then you're missing names like Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth and company, who've got to play, try and turn captain's head over the next few weeks, because these young men have thrown their hats in the ring saying, hey, pick me. Look at me right now. You can rely on me in the red, white, and blue, and I'm going to go and win points for you.
What would keep you from picking him?
From Akshay? Right now, I would say if I was forced to, if you were offering me to make an argument about this guy, I would say I'm all in for various reasons. First off, he's dynamite in the locker room. He could play alongside anybody. The only thing I think that's a knock on him is match play is an 18-hole deal, and it's about putting. And if there is a fissure in the game, on the greens, he's not as sharp as the rest. But otherwise, I'd be all in on this young man.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I could come up with is that when and we talk about Mackenzie Hughes all the time, being that good putter, that he can make that critical putt at the critical moment. That would be my concern, but I love the golf swing. I love the speed of the golf swing, everything about it.
No battle scars.
He's an easy fit, too. He really fits in the locker room.
Several people are going to need to get out of the way here, including Jordan Spieth. If Akshay Bhatia is going to let loose on a driver here, as you're just looking at all the numbers, as he gets ready to hit the big stick, he hits it a mile out there. So it's time now for Smooth Swing, presented by Maestro Dobel Tequila. Smoothness remastered.
He is all arms and legs. Like I said, only weighs less than 130 pounds, but the levers are incredible. And we're going to get a little look underneath the hood. The first thing I want to say is, it's almost like this guy was destined for success at the highest level, because we saw him as a kid in the drive, chip, and putt, and was winning even then. So watch this here. At address, he's about 6'1". He bends over a lot in the spine there, and you can see how the handle of the club is really low and the arms are underneath him. There's a lot of space here between the handle of the club and the knees. Now, I want you to watch that relationship, because he is going to re-establish that stuff through impact. So as he goes away, he stands the shaft up a little more than most. Now look at the top there. That is an incredible wind-up. Now watch the shallow. You see, with all that leg action, all that opening up, can you see how he's got the shaft of the club almost right back to where he began? And you can see there's still this relationship right through there, and it gives him space. Check this out, Bill. You can't do that. All that rep rotation through the golf ball. He's limber, he's fast, he's dynamic. There are levers to boot over there, and it's amazing how he's understood exactly what he needs to do to get this club in there to fade the golf ball every single time.
Yeah, we start looking at Oberg, we look at Batia. I'm just going to call it the two-back pocket swing. Those hips are so fast, you're looking at two pockets.
That's exactly what I saw. Yeah. Throwing those hips at the ball. Well, I want to go back to Brian Harman, because Robert Dameron just had a conversation with him about what he's working on here, Mark, and he's trying to hit it dead straight and let it just tail off to the left at the end.
Well, hitting that shot is a function of various things, and first off is to get the face looking to, for him, the left of the swing path, and for him, getting the path a little to the right of the target line. So that's why he's checking the ball position with a vertical line. Make sure that ball's not too far back in the stance. Secondly, that ball there, the tour striker between his arms, that's to keep the relationship between the lead arm and the trail arm. Because if you get that done, then he can keep that trail arm, for him his left arm, a little more quiet to not have the face roll over prematurely. He's got Justin Parsons, his coach, right alongside, and they do this stuff before every round. It's almost like a little checkpoint. All these things he goes through, he checks ball position, alignment, and then he just makes sure the arms work in unison.
Yeah, and that device, it helps with connection with the shoulders, the arms. It does that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. But the one thing too, like you think of a great ball striker like a Ben Hogan. If you can keep the relationship between the forearms, because if you're hooking the ball, the bottom arm will roll over the top. So that ball neutralizes stuff, and then to your point, it almost gets driven, the swing that is, by the movement, the rotation of the torso up and down. So for Harmon, who was a kid who grew up with a bit of a high school hook, this is how he manages the thing to play at the highest level.
He plays with a little bit of chip on his shoulder, too. I mean, he likes it when it gets a little salty out there. I mean, he is the ultimate competitor.
Well, I know that it's not very clever to call him a bulldog because he is. He's a Georgia bulldog through and through, has been his whole life, but he plays.
He's not the only one out there.
Like a bulldog.
And he's a match play aficionado. Let's not forget this is a guy who won the U.S. Junior Amateur as a kid, going through the drills here. And to your bulldog analogy, he is up for the battle. I mean, there's no one he's going to back down for. He might be diminutive in size, but he has a big heart.
Kratz, Harm, Brendan Todd, all these Georgia Bulldogs out there.
English. I mean, we're getting close to.
You could just get a little pass rush against Clemson. You should be fine in week number one. Number one team in all of college football.
I wasn't nervous until now. So you just now mentioned it. Now I'm starting to get nervous.
We're getting close. Kiz in the booth this week for Golf Channel and NBC. The dogs are everywhere. Min-Woo Lee is stretching and getting ready to hit some balls on the range, and we will watch the Aussie warm up in just a moment here on Golf Channel at the FedEx St. Jude Championship. We bring Mark Immelman in for some sort of explanation of what Min-Woo Lee is doing here with these bands.
Well, the bands are for strength, but the truth of it is that muscles under tension is when you really learn motor patterns. And so what he's doing there is you can see how he's stretching the band between his arms, between his hands. Then he's keeping some tension on the bands between the back and the hands there. So now he's working on the rotation to feel how everything in his core, his lats and that sort of area are working. So you'll see all these guys, they're using bands all the time because you can keep the musculature under tension, and that's the best way to learn. Bill.
You talk about some speed.
Oh, this boy's got it.
And creating speed. And I think the resistance is an excellent point. I mean, the guys work with the bands. Some guys work with the weights, the bands, the stretching. But Minwoo Lee, with what he does, the stretching, that band work, the speed he creates, even with a short iron, I mean, it is so high.
5th on tour, club head speed of almost in the mid-120s. This boy can go. And you know, you add to that too, everyone says we need personalities in the game. This guy, he's a big personality with a whole lot of swagger. The chef.
63rd in the standings, Robert, coming in this week. Needs a good week to get to Colorado.
And I was curious too. I didn't really get in to speak with him, but you know, if you're 63rd, you know you got to move 13 spots. Do you grind and fight the whole time, or do you say, I'm just going to freewheel it and see what happens? I'm sure there's different answers for different players up and down the range, but it is a unique situation that, you know, in my career and Billy's career, we didn't really have to worry about. It was nothing as far as like, well, if I don't play well this week, I'm out for the rest of the season. But Minwoo, he did that peculiar looking band work before. It's got to be part loosening up, but there's also got to be some, you know, drilling in your swing a little bit into that as well.
I would say so, Rob. You were talking about the grind or the freewheeling. Ordinarily around this place, given how hard the golf course can play, somewhere around the sort of 15 under clip is a good score if you want to win. What are conditions like? What are you expecting this week in terms of a winning score?
Well, I will say right now for today, this is one of the nicer Memphis days I've ever seen. It's either pouring or stifling hot, and it's neither today. It's been very pleasant. The rain has skipped by us. So it's been a good day to catch a lot of these players on the range, because normally this range is empty because it's 134 degrees out. But, you know, I think the course is playing exactly the way everyone expects. It's not firm. I didn't see any wind coming. There's a lot of heat. There's a lot of heat coming. So I think we're going to see some pretty low scores. Probably in the 18 range would be a good stab in the dark.
Yeah, to Robert's point, that heat is coming these next 4 days. It's been mild today, dodging a few storms, but it's coming. They're the winning scores that you referenced, Mark, these last few years. Lucas Glover couldn't stay dry in that Memphis heat. Nobody will ever forget that image at the end last year with our guy LG winning. Willie Z, his win on the PGA Tour in that epic playoff over Sepp Straka 2 years ago. And Zalatoris is back at the site of that victory. Thankfully, Kratz, he's healthy again.
Yeah, I think there's been one or two instances where he's kind of had to back away and kind of realign himself. But all in all, he's done some really good work to try to compensate for not only the surgery, but the issue at hand with the back. Moving the ball forward with the tee shot, that was a big deal.
Yeah.
Where you can go and chase it just a little bit more, as opposed to kind of having to bend back on it, kind of have that side bend that we often talk about.
Well, as you watch him swinging here, that side bend you speak of, you'll see with this iron club, there's a whole lot less of that tilt away from the target. You'll see how well, if you just imagine the height of his head in relation to the trees in the background, it won't drop. Watch how he keeps his levels a whole lot better. That places a whole lot less stress on the spine. But, Bill, we were diving into the numbers. Since 2021, when he was incredible, he led the tour strokes gained approach, had a whole lot of speed, was fast off the tee. He's almost lost a couple miles an hour in club head speed. Not that he's any shorter by any stretch of the imagination, but you just know the dynamics of the golf swing are not completely there just yet. So for me, it looks good, but it's still a work in progress.
Yeah, and maybe that's the last piece of the puzzle. Maybe that's the last thing he needs to do or try to achieve.
Finished second at the Genesis Invitational way back early in the season, but has missed 3 consecutive cuts coming into this event. Back in a place where he had the best moment of his PGA Tour career in that win over Sepp Straka 2 years ago.
It was an eventful playoff there on that 11th green. There was all sorts of shenanigans going on, remember that.
Justin Thomas broke his heart earlier that year at the PGA Championship. Cited Justin's last win on the PGA Tour. And after missing the playoffs last season, he has been far more consistent in 2024. What we expect from Justin Thomas.
Billy, these shots, in my opinion, this guy is the best wedge player in the game. Anything from that 70 to about 120-yard range, he is incredible.
Yeah, and I could put a couple other guys. I could put Scheffler and Schauffele right there. You know, so far as the wedge play, you start breaking these guys down. I mean, but yeah, throughout the years, JT, I just think, again, we talk about the transition. There's never a rush moment. When he needs to hit it 72, when he needs to hit it 79 yards, 84 yards, 87 yards, they seem to dial that in. He's done it for quite some time, and when he really kind of dials that in with the iron play, that's when his iron play becomes that guy.
I'll add to that too, and this is a little old school of me, but I have to. If you watch him as he goes about hitting these shots and building on your flashing speed in transition, the grip pressure, if you watch the hands there, he's never choking on that golf club too hard too. It's always very soft, and that allows him really to sense that club and almost sense the speed it's moving throughout the pass.
Yeah, and you start looking at this golf swing and all the technical aspects of it. Watch as he starts the club back. I want you to notice that there's a little bit of a downward push with the hands right there. You can just see it. That keeps the width. That creates the width. But that's right there. I mean, you cannot get a better position at the top than what he has right there. If we were to see the club face, you would see the left wrist and the club face very much in line. But watch the transition, the knees slightly flexed, right foot down much more. This is just a little wedge, but when he keeps that down where he doesn't pop off that right foot like he does with a driver, that iron play becomes sensational. I look for JT to have a good week, a really good week. He's won on this golf course before, feels comfortable on this golf course. It's been a year that the only thing missing, like Morikawa, is getting that win.
Inside 150 yards in just about every category on the PGA Tour. He's top 20 this season. To your point, he has been terrific with these scoring clubs. Seems like he's had more joy playing the game this year, too, which has been noticeable.
I think it's quiet out there. There's less noise going on. I think he has kind of a clear picture of what he wants to do. Much more clarity for him.
And if you're right, if he has a big week this week, look for him to get right in the mix in the President's Cup. That's another factor for him these next couple of weeks. He's in good shape to get to Denver and then to Atlanta, but I know he would love to play for the American team at Royal Montreal in late September.
I always love the way the eyes track over the intermediate target up to the target, just like that. Jack Nicklaus, Tiger Woods. You can see Tiger's influence on Justin Thomas's game.
And you can see the arms in line, very much the forearms.
Wyndham Clark, Ludwig Oberg at 10:35. Then it's Rory McIlroy and Colin Morikawa at 10:45 Eastern Time tomorrow. Sahith Theegala and Hideki Matsuyama at 1:35. And then Scotty Scheffler and Xander Schauffele, the top two players in the game, are playing together tomorrow at 12:45 Central Time. Cannot wait to watch them on PGA Tour Live, and then you get to watch them on Golf Channel as well. You better stay cool and dry out there these next few days, Kratz.
Well, As I say, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. These guys know it. No cut. They can go ahead and take the chances where they need. There's only a couple par fives, so you really need to take care of business on the par fours and the par threes. Pretty tough here.
Yeah, it's 4 p.m. Eastern time here on the PGA Tour. It's go time. Tomorrow's playoffs start. It's time to bring game, put all the swing thoughts aside, get yourself channeled. Stay hydrated, boys. It's going to be hot, but get after it.
Immelman's going flag hunting already. I love it. Cannot wait to broadcast the FedEx St. Jude Championship this week for you again. 2 p.m. Eastern time on Golf Channel on Thursday, early in the morning with Ned and Kratz at 8:15 on ESPN+. You can catch Mark and me at 10:30 tomorrow when Rory McIlroy is on the first tee, and again, 2 p.m. on Golf Channel. Thank you to our entire PGA Tour production crew. For Mark Immelman, Robert Dameron, and Billy Kratzert, I'm Taylor Zarzer. You've been watching On the Range.